Descendants of the tribe of Manasseh have come a long way since their forefathers found out their inheritance of the land almost 2,700 years ago. In the last years, they are making their way back to the Jewish people and to Israel. Tzvi Chauta, who guides and leads the tribe members so devotedly, has already paved their way for the last 7 years. This is the third time that he was sent by the Shavei Israel organization to India in order to return the lost tribe of Israel to the Jewish people.
First of all, we're in this generation by luck. This is a dream come true. It's a dream of our forefathers, not just us. It's something great. It's the complete redemption. Thank God we have come here.
The forefathers of Hauta were exiled by King Assyria in the year 722 BCE and wandered for many years until they settled in the outer Himalayas, in the area where today the states of Manipur and Mizoram are located in northeast India. The country is characterized by a mixture of religions and languages, but the tribe of Manasseh succeeded in keeping their Judaism and to pass their traditions from father to son in a remarkable way until this day.
Bnei Menasseh are part and parcel of the Jewish people. They are descendants of one of the lost tribes of Israel. They've been wandering in the diaspora now for 27 centuries, but they never forgot who they are. They never forgot where they came from, and they never forgot where they want to go, and that is back home to Zion.
Among the Bnei Menasseh, unlike other groups, there are traditions and customs that were transferred throughout the generations and thousands of years with songs, stories, and customs, which have connected them to the Jewish people and the tribe of Manasseh. Secondly, there are many customs, sacrifices, and commandments of keeping kosher, laws of family purity, Shabbat, festivals, that teach us of the customs of the Bnei Menasseh and their connection to the people of Israel from then until now.
And so during the last 50 years, the tribe members started on their amazing journey back to the bosom of the Jewish people. The Shavei Israel organization took the mission upon themselves to return the descendants of the Bnei Menasseh to the bosom of the Jewish people. And so, at the end of an intensive research 2 years ago, the chief rabbi of Israel, Shlomo Amar, acknowledged the Bnei Manasseh's Jewish roots and ruled that a rabbinical bet din should be summoned to convert them. The rabbi imposed this mission on the shoulders of the Shavei Israel organization.
We currently operate 2 educational centers for the Bnei Menasseh with a staff that was sent from Israel, where hundreds of members of the community study Judaism, basic Hebrew, Jewish history. They learn about our collective heritage. We have a moral responsibility, a historic responsibility, and even a religious responsibility to reach out to them, to embrace them, and to welcome them back home.
The widespread activities proved successful for a healthy and vibrant Jewish community life. And today, there are about 7,000 people who live this full way of Jewish life in the Manipur and Mizoram communities. Slowly, parts of the Bnei Menasseh started coming to live in Israel. They settled mainly in the area of Jerusalem as well as in the Galilee.
We have been dreaming to come here for a long time. And soft, we have made it.
The Shavei Israel have continued to help all the immigrants throughout their way in Israel too. For example, the organization in Kiryat Arba founded the Bet Miriam Community Center, especially for children. It was mainly founded to give activities to the scores of children in the afternoon hours and holidays. Ulpan for adults, art lessons, internet use, computers, and the place is supposed to be a warm home where they can develop and become stronger in themselves. The Shavei Israel organization makes sure that the older people are prepared professionally and helps them to fit into society and make an honorable living. Take, for example, a group of Bnei Menasseh girls who were integrated into a professional and prestigious cosmetics course. The girls graduated the course with honors and felt great satisfaction.
Actually, to start a new life here, it's given me hope for my future.
את מרגישה ישראלית?
Do you feel Israeli?
עכשיו כן.
Now I do. But the joy is not complete for the majority of the community left behind in India, and the immigrants are waiting patiently to be reunited with their family members left in Manipur and Mizoram. My parents and all my family are still in India. I really want them to come here. The Shavei Israel organization continues quietly and with great energy to make arrangements for the next campaign of the absorption of about 220 Bnei Menasseh. 20 Bnei Menasseh. In their long journey to Israel, they pass through the streets of Bombay and New Delhi. They become proud of their Jewish identity. They already know even how to sing in Hebrew. How will they adapt to Israel? How will they get used to the new culture which is so different from their village lives in India? Hopes and fears are etched on the faces of these new immigrants throughout the flight. In the airport, the faces of the Bnei Menasseh are recognized by family and friends who arrived to Israel previously. Some haven't seen each other for years. From Ben Gurion, the Bnei Menasseh set off to Pardes Chana, where they will spend the next few months. Shavei Israel organization converted the youth midrashia to a private absorption center for the Bnei Menasseh. The immigrants reside in the dormitory buildings and learn Hebrew and Judaism intensively. Young children, youths and adults, the Bnei Menasseh has a thirst for learning and to deepen their Torah knowledge substantially.
It is not just a matter of us strengthening them. It is they who strengthen us. The Bnei Menasseh are sincere and committed Zionists. They live an observant Jewish lifestyle. They serve in the army. They raise beautiful Jewish families. They are a blessing for the state of Israel and the Jewish people.
2,700 years after their forefathers discovered their inheritance of the land, the Bnei Menasseh are coming for the first time to Jerusalem and visiting the Western Wall. They collapse on the stones of the Kotel and pray with devotion. The blessings of the incoming of the exiles in the Amida prayer resonate significantly with the prayers of the descendants of the tribe of Manasseh next to the remains of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem.
We will not tire, we will not stop until all the remaining members of this wonderful community are able to come home to Israel. This is where they belong. This is their home. And we intend to facilitate the fulfillment of their dream and to bring them back to the land of their ancestors, the land of Israel.
Suuri osa juutalaisista elää vielä hajallaan ympäri maailmaa. Viime vuosikymmeninä he ovat alkaneet palata omaan maahansa. Tässä Israel puhuu jaksossa tutustumme Shavei Israel-järjestöön, joka auttaa maailman kaikkein syrjäisimpiä juutalaisyhteisöjä muuttamaan Israeliin. Tapaamme Bnei Menasseh-yhteisön jäseniä, joita pidetään Manasseh-heimon jälkeläisinä. He ovat eläneet 2700 vuotta Koillis-Intiassa. Mainitusta 12 Israelin heimosta tunnistetaan nykyisin varmuudella vain 2. Toinen niistä on Juudan heimo, jonka jälkeläisiä ovat nykyiset juutalaiset. Heidän joukossa on Leevin heimoon kuuluvia, jotka tunnetaan sukunimistä Kohen, Leevi ja Kats. Muut 10 heimoa ovat historian kuluessa kadonneet. Viime vuosikymmeninä niitä on kuitenkin alkanut ilmestyä eri puolilla maailmaa. Mielenkiintoinen esimerkki tästä on Bnei Menasseh-yhteisö. Se on muutaman tuhannen ihmisen ryhmä, joka on elänyt täysin eristyksissä 2700 vuotta Manipurin maakunnassa Koillis-Intiassa. Michael Freund on perustanut järjestön nimeltä Shavei Israel. Sen tarkoituksena on löytää eristyneitä Israelin heimoja ja palauttaa ne takaisin esi-isiensä maahan. Michael Freund toimi 90-luvulla Benjamin Netanyahun lehdistösihteerinä tämän ensimmäisellä pääministerikaudella.
Back in the 90s when I worked for Prime Minister Netanyahu, so one day a letter arrived to the Prime Minister from a community in India known as the Bnei Menasseh, the children of Manassah. This is a community that is descended from the tribe of Manasseh, one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, who were exiled by the Assyrian Empire more than 27 centuries ago. Nonetheless, despite wandering in exile, they managed to preserve their faith and their belief, and they never forgot where they came from, they never forgot who they were, and they never forgot where they dreamed of one day returning to the land of their ancestors, the land of Israel. This letter that the Bnei Menasseh had sent to the Prime Minister happened to cross my desk. Initially, I was skeptical. I didn't believe at first that they were in fact descendants of a lost tribe. I thought that they were simply people who sincerely wanted to become Jews. And so I felt that we should help them to do so. But once I traveled to India and I spent a lot of time there and I learned more about their history and their traditions and their customs, I became convinced of the historicity of their claims. I became convinced that they are in fact a lost tribe of Israel.
Raamatussa kerrotaan, että Manasse oli Joosefin poika. Muiden heimojen tapaan hänen jälkeläisensä saivat oman alueen Israelin maasta. Bnei Manasse-ryhmän tarina alkaa jo Israelin hajaantumisesta Juudan ja Israelin kuningaskuntiin, josta kerrotaan kuninkaiden kirjassa Vanhassa testamentissa.
We know from the Bible that after the death of King Solomon, the people of Israel became divided. There was the northern kingdom, which consisted of the 10 tribes of Israel, and then there was the southern kingdom of Judah. In the year 722 before the Common Era, the Assyrian Empire, who were the superpower of the time, invaded the land of Israel, captured the northern kingdom, and took the 10 tribes and sent them off into exile, where they seemingly disappeared into the mists of history. About 140 years later, the Babylonians invaded the land and captured Judah and sent the residents of Judah into exile. We, the Jewish people, the Jews of New York and Helsinki and Jerusalem, we are descendants of, for the most part, of the tribe of Judah, hence the name Jews. The Bnei Menasseh, however, are from the 10 tribes, the 10 tribes of Israel, who were exiled beforehand. According to their tradition, the Bnei Menasseh wandered in an easterly direction after being exiled from the land, and they settled in what is now China, where they lived for several centuries. At a certain point, the legend goes that a king or an emperor in China began to persecute them on religious grounds. He confiscated their holy book and forced them to flee southwards and then westwards, where they settled in what is now the northeastern part of India, which borders Burma and Bangladesh. Throughout their wanderings, the Bnei Menasseh kept the laws of the Torah. They observed the Sabbath, they kept kosher, they practiced the laws of family purity, they even established cities of refuge, as the Bible mandates. And they passed down from generation to generation a deep and firm belief that one day they would, in fact, return to Zion.
This is Manipur that I come from. Josanpur is the place that I was born. Mizoram is the place that another Bnei Menasseh are living, state of Mizoram.
Svik Haute muutti Israeliin Intian Manipurista vuonna 2000. Hänen tehtävänsä Shavei Israel-järjestössä on pitää yhteyttä Intiassa eläviin manasselaisiin. Zvi kasvoi perheessä, jossa noudatettiin sukupolvien takaisia perinteitä. Kaipuu takaisin Sioniin oli voimakas.
I remember one thing very clear as a child, that when I was around 7-8 years old, we used to form a chain, playing with my friends, and then we used to sing one song very common to us, Lut Til Til Zion, Lut Til Til. We make one gate or one door, and then one enters and then the other follows, and then the others make a chain holding hands together, Lut Til Til Zion, make hay, be quick to enter Zion. That was the song that I could remember till today. And we never identified and called ourselves our forefathers, Judah, Ezeu, or Israelites. They call themselves sons of Manasseh, Manasseh Tate. That's how we identified ourselves. When there are some natural calamities like earthquakes, our forefathers, our parents always say that, oh, the sons of Bnei Menasseh, Manasseh Tate, we are still alive here. Help us, the Father and the God of Bnei Menasseh.
Bnei Menasseh-yhteisö onnistui säilyttämään Jumalan Israelin kansalle antamat lait 2700 vuotta, vaikka heillä ei ollut yhtä ainutta vanhan testamentin kirjaa.
We have a priest. In its village we have a priest. The priest looks after all the religious affairs of the community. So there are so many sacrifices like communal sacrifices, individual sacrifices. Whoever is sick, he knows exactly how to do the sacrifices, how to heal even the sick person. Whenever there is disputes among the residents or among the community, it is always settled through witnesses. And then whenever someone is born, the 7th day and the 8th day, there is a feast. Many families, relatives come together and then celebrate and then name a boy or a girl on the 8th day and then did the Brit Milah. They're always long Zion, Jerusalem, Israel, but our forefathers, in their generation, they were not so lucky that they could make it physically, but they always long. In almost all their poetry, almost all their songs, there is a love of Zion, a love of Jerusalem, but they think that Zion, Jerusalem is not in this earth, in this globe. They think that it is in heavens.
Their existence was largely unknown because that part of India, even today, is very remote in a geographical sense. Even nowadays, to get there is not a simple matter. So they lived in this remote corner of northeastern India. In fact, it was the first British missionaries and military officers who arrived there a century ago. They were among the first Westerners to discover this community. And We have their diaries, we have their writings that they kept, the missionaries and the military officers, and they were astonished to discover this population group that was familiar with the stories of the Bible and was living according to the Torah and referred to God by the Hebrew word Yah and spoke of how they would one day return to a place called Zion. So much so that the British began to refer to this community by two Burmese words, the Lu She, which means the 10 tribes.
100 vuotta sitten Intiassa toimivat englantilaiset lähetystyöntekijät toivat Bnei Menasseh-heimolle ensimmäiset heidän kielelleen käännetyt raamatut.
When they look at the Tanakh, the Bible, when they study, it was translated into English from our language, our own language, Kuki and Mizo. They come to know that who is Manasseh. Manasseh is one of the two sons of Yosef Hatzadik. And then who is Joseph? Joseph is one of the sons of Yaakov. Yaakov is the son of one of the sons of Ishaq, Abraham. In that way, we could trace back that we belong to the Israelites, the Jews.
Uusi teknologia auttoi manassalaisia saamaan tietoa Israelin valtiosta ja he päättivät yrittää Israeliin muuttoa.
When I was doing my graduation in Delhi, I always loved Eretz Israel. I used to go through the internet, study a book on Israel, the religion, the history, the cultures, the geography, the politics. I love it. And then I knew what exactly is Israel through the books.
Every step of the long road from eastern India back to Israel, from transportation to paperwork.
Finally, the dream of my parents, the dream of my forefathers and myself dream is to be fulfilled because I got the visa that I heard the news that I could make earlier in the year 2000. 11 February 2000, when I landed in El.Al flight, Tel Aviv airport, I was crying because it was really the dream coming true. Many people could not fulfill those dreams. Myself the dream becomes reality. It was very emotional. So I was crying. I just took some people say that I heard that when I was in India that even the land, even the soil of Eretz Israel is kadosh, holy. So I just kissed the soil even.
Tähän mennessä 1700 manasselaista on muuttanut Israeliin. Shavei Israel-järjestö auttaa heitä täkäläiseen yhteiskuntaan sopeutumisessa.
Being an immigrant is always a challenge. I know that myself. I made Aliyah from New York 16 years ago, and it requires adjustments, learning a new language, a new mentality, a new way of doing things. But thankfully, the absorption of the Bnei Menasseh here in Israel has been immensely successful. Like I said, we've brought 1,700 members here to the Jewish state. We did a study last year of the community, and we found, for example, that only 4% of the Bnei Menasseh immigrants are reliant on social welfare benefits from the government, which is about half the national average. The Bnei Menasseh work hard, they support themselves and their families, they serve in the Israeli Defense Forces, they volunteer for combat units, they raise the most beautiful Jewish children. They are a blessing for Israel and the Jewish people. And as much as we might think that we are strengthening them, the truth is they are strengthening us.
Svi perheineen asuu Kirjat Arbassa Jerusalemista etelään, jossa elää maan suurin manasselaisryhmä.
When I arrived here in the year 2000, there were only 20-25 families. And then now it is growing very fast. As we see from the sages, the Chachamim, outside Israel, we don't multiply. Here in Israel, whenever we enter Israel, we are multiplying. So in Kiryat Arba, we have altogether 750 people. That is over 170 families. That is the biggest Bnei Menasseh community living in Eretz Israel. This is the place that Bet Miriam is called the community center of Savei Israel for Bnei Menasseh in Kiryat Arba. And then the kids, according to their classes, divided into classes, and then we have teachers, good teachers that who could help them solve their homeworks, help them in their homeworks, in their difficulties, and then parents are working before they arrive their homes. We have an address or a place that the kids could play or could eat or could feel a warmth of their love to share with their friends, and then we have a place to look after them here.
Manasselaisten kotouttaminen Israeliin on onnistunut hyvin. Heidän tuomisensa maahan ei kuitenkaan ollut helppoa, koska heidän kansallisia oikeuksiaan ei ole lailla säädetty. Tämän takia Intiassa on edelleen 7200 manasselaista, jotka odottavat Israeliin muuttoa.
We had to battle Israel's vaunted bureaucracy time and again. Essentially, I had to go to the Interior Ministry each year and seek permission to bring a group of 100 at a time, 200 at a time. And there were periods where it was very difficult, where certain government ministers were simply not in favor of allowing this aliyah to take place. And in fact, in 2007, that was the last time we were able to bring a group on aliyah of 230 people from the state of Manipur in northeastern India.
My parents, my siblings, my brothers and sisters still got stuck. They are the ones among the 7,200 that we are working very hard to bring back them to the promised land, to reconnect and to rejoin with the broken families. And then I'm the one from the family, my own family, that making aliyah. And then my wife too, her brothers and sisters and parents still got stuck in India, waiting for the next aliyah to come to rejoin the family here in the Holy Land.
But when the Netanyahu administration came back to power 2 years ago, I immediately began lobbying intensively, meeting with government ministers, meeting with Knesset members. And thank God we've had this breakthrough. And I'm hopeful that within the next few months, we will begin to see the first batches of immigrants from the Bnei Menasseh begin to arrive here again in Israel.